Before I get started tonight, I want to start with just a thought. I want you guys to all close your eyes real quick for me and imagine what you see the future to be. What's your vision for the future? Do you see robots and hoverboards, or do you see a world in turmoil? Whatever it may be, I want you to retain that thought throughout this presentation. So in the weeks coming up to this presentation, I've had a lot of people ask me what I'm talking about. And so I'm very passionate about this topic, so I start going on and kind of rambling. And before I know it, I just sort of see a confused face with most people when I use the word sustainability. And I find more and more people really don't know what I'm talking about. So I thought it was important first to explain what I mean by sustainability. So if you go to dictionary.com right now, the first definition you see here is the typical definition of sustainability in terms of economic sustainability, in terms of sustaining a business in growth. The bottom definition includes harmful to the environment and long-term ecological balance. And while both of these are important, what we need to do tonight is to remove both of these words, because what we need to do is create a definition of sustainability that doesn't need to use the word environment or ecological, but rather it's inherently implied in our mindset. Currently, in the United States right now, we have a spectrum of environmental attitudes. And I think it's pretty clear to all of us in this room what I mean by that. So on the left side here, we have sort of the classic hippie that we understand, right? The tree hugger, the foot soldier of every grassroots movement, right? And then on the right side, we have those who are driven by profit. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with this economically driven society. But what's most important is what's in the middle. The rest of us, the people who are impacted by the decisions they make, who think consciously about every decision they make. And what I mean by this is, I'm sure that we've all seen some sort of commercial or advertisement about, say, a Nike factory in a third world country, or a animal conservation commercial. And like all socially responsible causes, we feel empathetic for that cause. We want to help, and we feel bad. But shortly after that advertisement is over, we forget about the cause. We do. And we're all guilty of that. However, in terms of environmental sustainability, this is something we can't forget. It's present in our daily life every single day. We're all familiar with a lot of these logos here. So we have recycling, Rainforest Alliance certified, organic foods, we have Energy Star, Sustainable Forestry Initiative, Publix Green Works. We're encouraged to drive hybrid cars, energy efficient. But one thing that all of these things have in common is it requires you, all of you, to make a choice. And let's be honest, we don't want to make that choice. It requires us to give up our preferences. It requires us to make a choice, to make a compromise. And that's the problem with sustainability currently. We're enacting a sustainability paradigm, an environmental mindset that has become associated with compromise. What ends up happening is this model of sustainability says that we must remove these behaviors in order to live a truly sustainable lifestyle. And so when we see these choices, and when we see these preferences, and when we see this idea of compromise, all of us in this room who fall between the middle spectrum become so overwhelmed with all of the decisions that the result is zero action. What we need to do tonight is re-envision what the future will look like. We need to redefine what sustainability means to us, and we need to reframe our sustainability mindset. Renewable energy in this country. We've all had a negatively impacted vision of what sustainability means to us. And I think renewable energy is one of the most talked about topics in today's world. We hear so much about energy, but when we move away from this doom and gloom, sort of pessimistic mindset, what we enable ourselves to do is open our minds to the incredible possibilities of the future, limitless possibilities. So a lot of you guys are wondering where I'm going with this, and what I mean. How does all of this relate to the art of technology, if you will? What we need to do is embrace our design. We need to embrace the technologies of the future to create a sustainable future. So currently, in this world right now, the United States uses less than 10% of renewable energy. Beyond that, less than 1% comes from solar. This may seem like just numbers on a screen, but when I move forward, we see that 35,000 times the amount of energy is what the sun produces on a daily basis. You put that among 7 billion people. The sun gives us everything we need. This is the most compelling aspect of sustainability. The Earth has 4 billion years of research and development that has taught us how to refine and define processes and methods and materials. When we look to biomimicry, as Cash explained earlier tonight, we see that animals and we see that plants know more than us. They are more efficient than us. But yet we don't use that knowledge. So I look towards solutions. I get excited when I see the newest innovations, the newest technologies that are going to change our future. Biomimicry. We've all heard now what that is, and I've kept this definition up here because I think it's important to underscore how important it is to our sustainable future. But a lot of you probably don't really understand the application. So take a look at this here. On the left here, you'll see the burr plant, and I think we've all probably encountered something similar to this where you walk out into a field and something gets stuck on your sock or it gets stuck to the bottom of your foot and it's the worst pain ever, right? Well, a Swiss engineer one day noticed that the end of the burr plant, the very tip of it, could be utilized in a material, and thus we have Velcro. This is just one example. We've seen flying. We've seen different materials. We've seen different technologies. This is learning from what the Earth has already developed, has already tested for us. So when we look forward to energy, what are the solutions to energy? How can we solve the problem of sustainable, clean energy? Well, it's already happening. So this right here is a 10 by 10 centimeter solar cell. It was 3D printed. This is the least expensive solar technology we have available today. In this one cell right here, we can produce 10 megawatts of energy. It may not seem like a lot, but when you multiply that by many of them, hundreds of thousands, at a fraction of the cost of what we're paying for solar panels, our world opens up. But it doesn't end there. In Japan, 50,000 solar panels have been installed on the ocean. This right here will power 5,000 nearby homes, just on its own. There was no land that had to be spared. There was no destruction that had to take place. All this is a smart solution, a simple solution. If you haven't heard of Tesla by now, you must be living under a rock, because this company is moving the world forward. And recently, I believe in November, they released the Tesla Powerwall. And if you haven't heard of it, basically what it does is it's a home battery pack that solves the problem rather, of what we've been dealing with renewable energy. I think one of the biggest myths in sustainable energy is, how do we store it? That is the biggest question among all of us, is how do we store this incredible amount of sustainable energy that we can harvest? This solves this. So this right here can power your whole home solely through renewable energy. In theory, you could live completely off the grid just by having this and solar panels, or wind. Take your choice. So as we move forward, we think, how can we design sustainably? What other technologies are available? I'm not done yet. There's more solutions. The solutions are endless. So 3D printers. Again, one of the most cutting-edge technologies available right now. What 3D printing does, it's also known as additive manufacturing. And what it allows us to do is use computerized, digitized images and models to create real structures. It allows us to take away the old sort of archaic method of construction of using one material and using that to build a home or a building, and instead only using what we need. Only using the efficient amount of materials, only being the most optimized design. So here in Dubai, this is an office building that was 3D printed. And so beyond the beautiful, sleek, modern design that we see here, we also see something that is truly sustainable in its construction, in how it was built, how it was designed. And so when we move forward, we see this isn't something that requires us to be environmental. It doesn't require us to be tree huggers or any of that. It requires us to just be smart, to just pick a better option. And so here, again, we have a fibrous model where we've utilized, instead of blocks and sort of these geometric shapes, these engineers have designed something, envisioned something even better, using the fibrous models that nature has provided with us in many different forms in terms of plant structures to create new structures for us. And so when we think about this, we really think about the limitless possibilities. So we've had sustainable design. We've talked about energy, but one of the biggest contributors to our climate change, to our environmental issues right now, are the cars that all of you drive. We've heard enough of it, right? We've heard about electric cars, we've heard about hybrid cars, and they're all great solutions, but are they the most efficient? Do you ask yourself, is this the best way that we could do this? So transport, again, I'm a fan of Tesla. So they've created something called the Hyperloop, and what the Hyperloop does is, imagine a pressurized tube where you bounce back and forth like an air hockey table. And what happens is, in this right here, this is a rendering of what's actually being built right now. This is not a pipe dream. This is something that's in construction right now. This is a terminal that was imagined in Los Angeles. And the idea is we could travel from Los Angeles to San Francisco, which a drive time would take over 6 hours. This would do it in 35 minutes. It doesn't end there, though. It would travel at 600 miles per hour and be powered by solar energy to completely power itself and more. The energy that it would create and use would be able to be sold back to the grid. Again, another solution where we don't see something being done, we just see it being smart. So I wanted to create a vision for all of you here tonight, because I think more often than not, these technologies are great, but how do we put them all together? How do we standardize this? How do we find something to get excited about? And so I sort of started to research just renderings of what the future may look like. And these are two great examples that I found. Here you see a city, an urban center of life that has truly connected communities, where the environment and humans are connected with these buildings, with these structures, and are living not in harmony, but just together, living symbiotically. We're using the Earth's resources, the Earth ecosystem services, the research and development that the Earth has provided us to create better cities, to create better lives for all of us. And so we start to see this futuristic vision of the future, and while many of us may be afraid of it, I think it's time for us to embrace it. I think it's time for us to embrace what the future has to offer. So this is a very common model of communication. In mass media, this is one of the most famous models. And what it says, what it proposits is that up top you have mass media and culture, and it flows down to the opinion leaders in society. This may be a celebrity, it may just be the sort of leader in your community. And then those ideas are diffused down to us, the individuals. And so what happens is one idea flows down to all of us. And while I've offered you guys many, many solutions, and I get excited about these technologies, I do, the most important technology that we have, the most important tool we have, is all of you here tonight. I'm speaking in front of you tonight not just as a conversation, but I'm actually asking all of you a favor, because I implore all of you to become the opinion leaders. I implore all of you guys to become the agents of change that will spread ideas, that will talk about sustainability in a positive way, to move away from this pessimistic doom and gloom attitude that we've adopted and move into a future of optimism and positivity where we embrace these technologies to make a better world. When we look at these, we think just numbers at first, but when we really look at this, we think about what's happened in the past 10 minutes that I've been up here. In 10 minutes, 2.4 thousand people have been born. In 10 minutes, 400 acres of tropical forests have been destroyed. In 10 minutes, 280 barrels of oil have been used. In 10 minutes, 96,000 tons of carbon dioxide have been emitted into our atmosphere. And so what we see is this isn't a problem for the future. It's happening now. The definition of sustainability that I provided you with at the beginning of this conversation has just changed. Your definition of the future has just changed in the time that I've been up here. So it's time for us to embrace these solutions and move forward. And so as I close out, I want to just leave you with one thought. What is your vision for the future? Thank you.